The United Kingdom, home to one of the wealthiest cities in the world, London, is often perceived as a land of opportunity and prosperity. Yet, beneath the surface of its glittering skyline lies a paradox. A country grappling with rising homelessness, stagnant wages, and an exodus of young talent. How did a nation that once led the Industrial Revolution find itself struggling to keep its brightest minds and skilled workers from leaving? What's truly happening in the UK, and what does it mean for its future? Let's start with an eye-opening fact. London, with an economy worth over $500 billion, would rank as the 26th largest economy if it were a country. Yet, in the same city, more than 1 in 50 people are homeless, and the situation has worsened by 50% in just a decade. This isn't just a statistic, it's a story of a growing divide between wealth and opportunity, one that mirrors the broader challenges facing the UK today. By the end of this video, we'll uncover why a nation synonymous with opportunity is now losing its luster for millions. From the housing crisis to rising living costs, and from stagnant wages to the migration trends reshaping its workforce, this is a story you won't want to miss. Stay with us and be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Economy Explorer so you don't miss a moment of this crucial discussion. And trust me, you'll want to watch this one all the way through. The UK's economic struggles. The productivity puzzle. For much of its history, the United Kingdom stood as a global symbol of innovation and industrial might. Yet, since the 2008 financial crisis, something peculiar has happened. Productivity, a key measure of economic efficiency, has barely grown. Before the crisis, productivity in the UK increased by around 2% annually, propelling living standards and wages higher. Today, it limps along at a fraction of that pace, trailing behind countries like Germany and the United States. Economists refer to this as the productivity puzzle, and its implications are staggering. Without robust productivity growth, businesses struggle to pay higher wages, and the economy fails to expand in meaningful ways. Could this stagnation be holding back not just wages, but the country's ability to innovate and thrive in a competitive world? And how does this connect to the next pressing issue? The wage stagnation trap. If you've been working in the UK over the past decade, you might feel like your paycheck isn't stretching as far as it used to, and you'd be right. Adjusted for inflation, the average worker is earning roughly the same as they did in 2008. While employees are working longer hours and taking on more responsibilities, their real earnings remain flat. Meanwhile, the cost of essentials like food, housing, and utilities has surged, creating a frustrating paradox. People are working harder than ever, but feeling poorer. Economists blame this on the productivity slump and underinvestment in industries that drive wage growth. But the frustration is palpable. How can a country with such a rich history of economic prosperity leave its workers feeling stuck? As we'll see, this issue is compounded by an even greater force: rising inflation. Inflation's grip. Inflation is a word many of us hear but often don't fully understand until it hits our wallets. In the UK, inflation has skyrocketed to levels not seen since the 1980s, with prices rising over 20% in just 3 years. For families, this means paying significantly more for the same basket of groceries, skyrocketing energy bills, and fewer options for saving or investing. Consider this. How often do you leave the store wondering how so little can cost so much? For lower-income households, the effects are devastating, widening the gap between those who can weather the storm and those who cannot. Inflation has not only strained individual budgets, but also created a ripple effect across the economy. Yet, it isn't just inflation that's weighing down growth. There's another culprit at play: underinvestment in growth. Imagine running a race but refusing to invest in better training, gear, or coaching. That's essentially what's happening in the UK economy. Businesses and governments alike have underinvested in critical areas such as infrastructure, technology, and research. Compared to nations like France and the United States, the UK spends 20% less on business investment. This shortfall manifests in outdated systems, lower innovation, and reduced competitiveness on the global stage. It's as if the tools to succeed are available, but no one is picking them up. What's more, this lack of investment creates a domino effect, limiting productivity and further stagnating wages. The big question is, can the UK reverse this trend, or is it digging itself into a deeper hole? Housing crisis and cost of living. The roots of a housing crisis. Think about this. In a country as developed as the UK, owning a home has become an unattainable dream for many. Over the decades, the UK has built far fewer homes than its growing population demands. Restrictive planning laws and decades of underinvestment have created a housing shortfall so severe that house prices have soared to 12 times the median income in cities like London. Policies like the Right to Buy scheme in the 1980s, which allowed council tenants to purchase their homes, were celebrated at the time. But here's the catch. These homes were never adequately replaced. This left a gaping hole in the availability of social housing, one that continues to widen today. If you think this issue affects only those looking to buy, think again. Renters are feeling the squeeze too. Renting, a costly alternative. As homeownership becomes less achievable, more people are pushed into the private rental market. But with demand far outstripping supply, rents have skyrocketed, leaving renters spending an increasing share of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. For lower-income households, this means cutting back on essentials like food and transportation to make rent payments. Have you ever thought about what it takes for a single parent working 2 jobs to keep up with rising rents? This relentless climb in housing costs isn't just hurting individuals, it's draining communities and exacerbating inequality. But the cost of housing is just one part of the larger picture. Let's explore how the rising cost of living is impacting everyday life in the UK. The burden of everyday expenses. Picture this. You're in a supermarket, filling your cart with the same items you bought last month, only to find that your bill has jumped significantly. This is the reality for millions of Britons as inflation drives up the price of nearly everything from groceries to utilities. Energy bills alone have doubled for some households in recent years, leaving families choosing between heating their homes and putting food on the table. For many, even small luxuries have become unaffordable, shrinking not just bank accounts, but also quality of life. And as costs rise faster than wages, the gap between those who can afford a decent standard of living and those who cannot grows wider. What happens when people feel priced out of their own lives? That's a question that leads us to another critical point. The ripple effect on communities. Housing and living costs aren't just individual challenges, they're reshaping entire communities. Rising rents push families out of cities where jobs are concentrated, creating longer commutes and breaking down social networks. Meanwhile, the lack of affordable housing means younger generations are delaying milestones like starting families or buying their first homes. It's a vicious cycle. Fewer young people in local areas lead to school closures, declining services, and a diminished sense of community. If these trends continue, what kind of future is the UK building for its residents? To understand the broader implications, we need to look at the connection between these economic struggles and migration patterns, which we'll explore next. Migration and the talent exodus. The Great Departure. Imagine being a young, skilled professional in the UK, armed with a degree and a drive to succeed. Yet, instead of opportunities, you find stagnation, low wages, limited career progression, and a skyrocketing cost of living. For many, this isn't just a hypothetical, it's reality. Every year, thousands of the UK's brightest minds pack their bags and head to countries like the US, Australia, and Canada in search of better pay and a higher quality of life. A junior professional in London might earn less than half of what their counterpart makes in New York, despite living costs being only slightly higher there. This brain drain has profound consequences for the economy, but it's not just about paychecks. It's about the promise of a better future. The cost of losing talent. When skilled workers leave, the impact ripples through every sector. Take the National Health Service, NHS, as an example. Already stretched thin, it faces critical shortages as doctors and nurses leave for countries offering better pay, fewer hours, and improved working conditions. The same holds true for industries like engineering, tech, and academia, where talent flight leaves gaps that are hard to fill. Have you ever waited in a long line for healthcare or noticed delays in projects and services? These are just some of the visible effects of losing the skilled workforce that keeps the country running. Yet, while professionals leave, immigration patterns show a different story on the other end. The skills gap. The UK remains a magnet for immigrants, with record numbers arriving each year. However, the skills of incoming workers often don't match those leaving. Research shows that the country is increasingly importing low-skilled labor while losing highly skilled professionals. This shift has a profound effect on productivity and innovation. Think about it. Replacing engineers with workers in less specialized roles doesn't build the infrastructure for future growth. It's like trying to fill a hole with the wrong tools. This imbalance strains industries, slows down progress, and highlights the structural challenges in attracting and retaining top talent. What's driving the exodus? At its core, the talent exodus boils down to a combination of frustration and aspiration. Frustration with stagnant wages, unaffordable housing, and overstretched services. Aspiration for a life where effort is rewarded and opportunities abound. But migration isn't just an individual decision, it reflects broader systemic issues. If the UK continues to lose its brightest minds while failing to address the root causes, what will the long-term consequences be? This question leads us directly to the deeper economic implications of this growing crisis. The crossroads of a nation. In a country that once led the Industrial Revolution and pioneered global trade, the current reality feels like a stark contrast. From the productivity slump that shackles economic growth to the housing crisis that pushes families to the brink, the UK is grappling with challenges that strike at the very heart of its society. For many, the exodus of young talent isn't just a trend, it's a powerful symbol of a system struggling to retain its brightest minds and fulfill its promises of opportunity. The interconnected nature of these issues is undeniable. Stagnant wages are tied to low productivity, rising housing costs ripple into declining living standards, and the departure of skilled workers leaves industries vulnerable. Each problem feeds into the next, creating a web of challenges that the nation must untangle to move forward. Yet, even in the face of these daunting realities, there's room for hope. Countries have turned economic crises into opportunities before. Could the UK be next? But here's the pressing question. What can be done to break this cycle? Could bold reforms in housing, investment in technology, or a renewed focus on education and skill development be the answer? Or will the country continue to lose its edge to nations better prepared for the challenges of the 21st century? As we close, consider this. Every problem we've discussed affects not just policies or markets, but real lives, perhaps even your own. How has this landscape shaped your experiences, and what changes would you like to see? Let us know your thoughts below. Thank you for being a part of Economy Explorer. Your engagement fuels these conversations. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay part of this journey. And as you reflect on today's discussion, check out one of the videos on your screen for more insights. Together, we can navigate the complexities of the global economy.